So you don't feel like a real artist. Feeling like you're not a real artist is a feeling that many people pursuing an artistic lifestyle can relate to. As a young musician or artist myself, being friends with other creative people, this feeling is like a rite of passage of some sort. This video is mostly directed at musicians or, music artists and writers, but I hope that this video can still be helpful across all mediums, whether you paint, draw, act, or really anything. For those new to the channel, my name is Melina and I'm an independent artist based in Toronto, Canada. This is actually my first YouTube video where I'll be talking straight to the camera like this. And if you'd like to stick around and see what else is in store, you can hit subscribe and hit that little notification bell to stay up to date whenever I post. I wanted to make this video because somebody super close to me whose work I hold in such high regard called me and told me that they weren't feeling good enough and that they were in a place where they didn't feel like a real artist. I've said it myself before, and we've definitely had the conversation before, like them and I, but it's just so easy to forget sometimes, I think, if you don't have somebody to remind you that it truly is a process. And since art can be so personal and so deeply ingrained with our identities, looking at your art, listening to or interacting with or reading something you've created, it can often feel like you're staring at yourself naked in the mirror. And I find that things reveal themselves, and sometimes they're not always pretty when it comes to creating stuff, and that can be hard to deal with. So yeah, that's going to be what I'm talking about. Let's get into the video. What is a real artist anyways? Well, Wikipedia says an artist is a person engaged in an activity related to creating art, practicing the arts, or demonstrating an art with a common usage, both everyday speech and academic discourse, referring to a practitioner in the visual arts only. If you are regularly creating, I guess I would say, perhaps writing, with the intention of having an end product, making music, or even not even with the intention of having an end product, like, for example, an album, you count. It's a part of our everyday human existence, like making breakfast to choosing an outfit in the morning, doing your makeup, etc., etc. I think we could all agree that the term real artist carries carries little weight in a theoretical sense, but why does it haunt so many of us, like, for real? And where did, this concept of real artist come from? In the age of social media, we are comparing ourselves. I feel like that is like, I'm saying this as fact. It is impossible not to. And we have such deep access to the lives of people we don't really know at all, that parasocial relationships are at like an all-time high. And what happens when you form a parasocial relationship with your favorite artist as another artist, which is not always negative, by the way. Like, parasocial relationships have a bad rap, I think. But for those who are not familiar with the term, findapsychologist.org says parasocial relationships are one-sided relationships where one person extends emotional energy, interest, and time, and the other party, the persona, is completely unaware of the other's existence. As a young artist studying closely someone you look up to creatively, parasocially, they kind of become like this distant mentor. You look up to this person, you relate to their struggles or creative process or style, but most importantly, you admire and aim to strive for their success, their type of success, which is appealing to you. You see them and you think, oh, that's the real thing. They're like, if I had this, I'd probably be set. I'd probably be all good. And like I said before, this isn't all bad. For goal setting purposes, it is extremely beneficial and amazing to identify with another artist in a way. You will perhaps feel seen, and you can feel closer to understanding yourself through their journey. You feel represented, and you feel like you're not alone in your experiences with creativity. I think when anxiety comes into play, the underbelly of the parasocial mentor is that at the end of the day, they're not you. And you can only learn, so much from someone else's journey. You are your own person and won't be able to bring like exactly what someone else can. And like, that's okay. Part of the process of being an artist is making mistakes. It's an intuitive thing. Like when you're creating something, it's almost like there's a little mini you inside of you that's pulling the strings. When you get into that flow state, you're able to level with yourself. You have a deep trust in your own personal taste. And hey, perhaps that's not the taste of the nation or, zeitgeist yet. But what's so wrong with that? Your ideas might not always hit the way you want, or maybe they will sometimes. But this whole, like when I get to the other side, everything will be perfect. It doesn't exist. I'm going to insert a clip of Earl Sweatshirt talking about this from his interview with Zane Lowe from like a year ago.
For a long time, I think I made the mistake of thinking that it was like a before and after thing. Like I would like reach a point and then you're like done struggling. You know what I'm saying? It's like, I'm good now. It's like, it's over. Which is not the nature of the game. A heartbeat, I learned about it through a heartbeat, man. You know what I mean?
Start focusing on the actual curvature and start focusing
like
on
that stops scaring you. Like that motion stops scaring you so much. You kind of plan on it. So it's like right now I'm in a celebratory state. Like we just dropped the thing, right? So it's like I have this opportunity right now to like truly be happy.
Accepting where you are in the process is a way of giving yourself grace. Looking at your naked self in the mirror and saying, I see you, I accept you, and I love you. Obviously, we are always trying to like one-up ourselves, because if the last project you work on was the best work you'll ever do, you're already kind of done for. But at the same time, when is the last time you gave yourself your flowers for what you've already accomplished? Like, you are actively working through these chaotic feelings you have with your creative process, and that's like intense stuff. Like, it's not easy for everyone, and you are seeking the answer out intently enough that you clicked on this video and you have time. Meet yourself where you are. Rian Phin is a fashion thinker who's made a lot of videos where she talks about cultivating personal style and cultivating identity and how that will inform your style. I think the ideas she talks about apply so closely to music and just creativity in general, and how one can get an idea of how to cultivate your own personal taste in sound. In her video, How to Develop Personal Style, which I will link below, she highlights the difference between wearing things that you like versus what you are trying to communicate through the clothes that you wear and how you interact with your reality. And here's a quote from that video. It sounds like I'm saying you have to be pretentious and be doing all this work to tell the singular narrative and look in one way, and you're not allowed to do certain things, but you can do whatever you want with personal style. The whole point is that you have a perspective and a narrative and expectations when you're getting dressed that revolve around your sensibilities and the way that you react with your reality. And I think it's helpful to see personal style as a platform for storytelling as for self-expression, which is really vague and broad. Storytelling is what you're trying to communicate to the outside world and to yourself, to your past self, present self, to your future self. What are you trying to say in this present moment? When you sit down and you make something and decide, okay, this is an idea I'm trying to pursue. I have so many demos, but when it comes time to flesh out what's going to go on an album, I'm thinking about the type of story I'm telling, through the way I curate everything that's going to go into the project, what songs are staying, what songs are not, why, who am I right now, and how am I going to communicate that in the best way possible. You could try to boil it down to personal style. But it's not. It's a little deeper than that. There's a reason why you're drawn to a certain of style of music. Maybe it's the way that it makes you feel. Do you know why you want to make the music you're making? Like, your sensibilities are going to inform the process of how you work, because projects don't get churned out in a day. Like, you are building this thing, you are in the driver's seat, and it's going to take time. So the type of lifestyle that you're living and whatever your sensibilities are going to inform the process even of how your art is being made. And especially for a lot of us who are independent out here, like, it really doesn't happen in a day. Like, you're probably going to be working on this thing. Like, for example, if you're an artist, if you're an artist, like, trying to turn out an album, you're working, you're paying rent that's like way higher than it needs to be. You're trying to fund an album, record an album, pay everyone fairly. It might take a while for you to finish it. Like, it's going to take a while. And so your sensibility, how you interact with your reality, like how you see the world, it is going to inform your process, which is going to like have effect on your art. So get curious, do research, explore, and try new things. You might be surprised that the music you thought you wanted to make is not it at all. And follow that feeling, that inner childlike joy that you can't really explain, but just does because it feels right. And also the artist that you are today, or even were a year ago, might not have the same outlook on life and sensibilities that you have now. And allow yourself that space to change and grow. And if you have like this narrow idea of the type of artist that you want to be or should be, you're not really giving yourself an opportunity to get to know, what is really going on in there, what you really are trying to say. The relationship between being in a place where you can create freely and openly while cultivating identity, and style in music is so close. Having like that discipline. They're sisters. You have to get out there and try things to see, what gives you that feeling. You have to like allow yourself that space to grow so that you're able to be decisive on whether something is for you or not, and maybe you already know, but not everyone does. And it definitely is like a journey, especially if you're starting, you know what I mean? Like later in your life, you can have boundaries and you can change them whenever you want. You can decide that you don't want to do something or that you do, and that's it. Like someone who might choose to wear all black to communicate their sensibilities and who they are, the way that you put out your art, or like the process that informs your art, is going to communicate those same sensibilities. Erica DeCassier is such an amazing example of this, and I love talking about her. But for those who are unfamiliar, Erica makes like modern trip hop inspired R&B, I guess you could say. Listening in on her music, you can easily get a sense of who she is. Like, more specifically, I want to talk about her music videos and how she's able to communicate her values through them alongside her music. Essentials, her album from 2019, was her first and acts as this really strong and easy access point to an understanding of her sonic identity. It's cohesive, and right off the bat has like this undeniable quality that is Erica DeCassier. I remember the first time I saw the video for Do My Thing. It starts with Erica lip syncing to her song while biking to the club, helmet on and everything. And her friend, I think, is riding beside her with the camera and like literally filming her like while biking beside her, it seems. And then there are shots of her like dancing in a club in a sea of people. It's super low budget, likely shot on an iPhone. It's fun, intentional, straightforward, and cool. And all her music videos are like this. When listening to Sensational, like her album from 2021, I get to track 4, which is All You Talk About, where she's venting about a partner who is really into their designer clothes, and she goes on to saying, like, what do you enjoy without a price tag? I chose her specifically for this example because so many of us artists, musicians, like independent musicians, we are broke. Like, it is rough out here. It's tough always investing in your art, often when there's not always good payback. Like, let's be real, especially when you're still finding yourself in your art alongside an industry that is changing so rapidly, and that is just really toxic. You can get a sense of Erica's sensibilities not only through listening to her music, but also watching her videos and even like interacting with what little content like she puts out on Instagram or on YouTube. You can just really get a strong idea of what her sensibilities are. There's a realness and a sense of honesty there that I think a lot of fans of hers could relate to, and it's probably something they love her for. She has boundaries that are clear in her art, and it works for her. They'll work for you too. Like, that comes with cultivating yourself as an artist and deciding what is for you and what isn't. You have to figure out what you're saying before you say it. You have to think about how you're going to say it so the language is clear and concise, and it's not this pretentious thing either. How you interact with reality and what your sensibilities are can have both intentional and unintentional effect on your art. I won't delve too deep into the commodification of art because it's a very dense topic that for sure deserves its own video, but I want to instead take a moment to reassure you that while you are on this creative journey with yourself, you do not have to rush to commodify your work. There is so much value in mastery for yourself. And of course, at some point, like for many of you, I imagine you want your art to be your main source of income. But honey, like, it's rough out here. I don't want to say that to discourage you, but it's true. Trying to get things off of the ground on your own is hard. You know, like, I know that's the climate of the music industry now, to do it all yourself, but that shit isn't easy. So don't be hard on yourself. If you're struggling to balance all the 50 million things you have to remember and consider because you are running the show, you know, and not everyone is also just like built with all the skills. You know, it takes practice, building a team, meeting the right people, communicating your vision, financing your vision, and then marketing it. I think you have the space to take your time. That time spent cultivating your skill and identity within your art will only serve you in the long run. You have to make a good thing before you try selling it to people. Like, and that's not easy. Like, it takes, like, it's a lot of work to make a good song. And not even just work. Like, I don't even want to use the word work. Like, there's like a special formula that you tap into, you know, and there's so much different music, so it doesn't always look the same. But there are so many like internal and external factors that might be holding you back from your full potential, and that is a lot to unpack, like, on your own. And that's all I'll say on that. So in closing, listen to my music. No, I'm joking. Actually, I'm not. I'm being for real. But anyways, everything you're going through right now, that turbulence or tightness you feel, like, creatively, is indeed a part of the process. It's a rite of passion, and you don't have to prove yourself worthy of creating something. It is so helpful and productive to be able to look up and study artists we feel are representations of the type of artist we want to be, but it's even more helpful and productive too to remain constantly introspective about our own relationship to our art and what that means for us personally. Try different things, make mistakes, yada yada yada. Find your flow, what makes you tick. Some of you might figure it out early or right away, and for others it might take longer, and that is completely fine. I feel like I'm still figuring it out constantly. Like, as you can see, if you look at my channel, I'm not a huge artist. Like, don't be afraid to be curious and experimental, that is the shit that will keep you going. Like, you are a being who is constantly changing, like constantly, like on a daily basis, weekly basis, monthly basis. You know, allow yourself the space to explore. You might find yourself growing and experiencing life and art in a way you could have never imagined or planned for yourself. And that could be really fulfilling. Like, you are a real artist. Like, as long as you're making art on a regular basis by definition. Have you? I hope this video finds you well, and I hope that it was helpful and productive for you, because there is just so much information out there that it's exhausting. If you needed a pep talk, you know, that was also lined with some good game, I hope this made you feel like a little bit more seen. And I'm proud of you, and I'm so thankful that you stayed all the way until the end. Like, that is amazing. Have an amazing rest of your day, and don't forget to be kind to yourself. Much love. Bye.